Hey friends, welcome to episode 61 of A Nutty Mess Knitting Podcast. Hi everyone, I would like to welcome you to October. How did that happen? No one knows. It is October 3rd here in the lovely Pacific Northwest. I am Megan. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, this is like a normal knitting podcast type project update thing I do weekly. I generally post on Thursdays or Fridays. I run through the projects that I have worked on from the week before, which a lot of times is all of the projects, and like this week, not all of the projects. I'll go through any finished objects like this one, and I will go through some spinning updates, the books I've been reading, and then other things at the end. This week at the end, the most important thing we're going to talk about is Q3 stats. I am a numbers girl. I love just to know things. This is my first year tracking yards in, yards out, grams also, but I think yards more important. And projects finish, so we'll go through a couple of things. It's not going to be a long time in that, but I'm going to just show you a couple things and we will do the flat lay color in. So not too many projects to talk about, so hopefully we'll get through that part quickly. If you did not know, yesterday I posted a size inclusive fall knits you should be making. It is a dozen or so. No, there's more than that. There's probably 20 something patterns because I can't just do 5, but I did just pick one winner in each of the categories that I went through, which is basics. There are 2 winners. You can't stop me. Lace, texture, cardigans, and free patterns. I always do free separately because sometimes you'll just see you get what you pay for or don't pay for. And sometimes there's like little things, although I think the ones I picked are like legit looking patterns. I did read through those ones. So that is what I shared. Please go watch it, comment it, like it. Some of them will look familiar if you're a typical watcher because I have made some of them. How could I not highlight the ones I really loved making this fall? So there we are. It is only released things. It is also only things that released as of last week when I filmed. So let's go on to normal things. I have a finished object and it's what I'm wearing. I am super in love with this. Okay. I will pop a picture up in a minute, but let's talk about my 3 Seasons pullover by Abbye and Selena at Wool and Pine Designs. I finished this on Saturday. Maybe I finished it on Saturday, actually. I feel like I just did, I don't know where it was. I had part of a sleeve done. I did a whole sleeve in an evening then. The whole rest of that sleeve. And I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. That was on Thursday while I was editing. And so I just whipped through Friday, most of it. And then I think I had just, maybe this much to do on Saturday morning. I did that while we were just hanging out, and then I washed while baby was sleeping, and I laid it out, and then I even laid it out, was it on Sunday? I laid it out upstairs in the sunshine, which it's a little weak. We're way up. So our sunshine is still actually here, which is amazing and lovely, but it's not as strong or warm. So I didn't know if it would actually dry it, but I put this on our upstairs porch and it totally dried it. It was so nice. So here we are. Okay, I will stand up so we can talk about the fit a little bit, and then I will pop a picture up while we talk about some more things. Okay, here is me talking to you headless as always when I do this segment. Sorry, but my room is very small actually. Okay, here it is. I love it. Okay, so if we all remember, this is a top-down sort of. You never join in the round. It is seamed on the sides, drop shoulder, all over cables and texture pattern. I we'll talk about the yarn and all the other things in a second, but this is a blown tube yarn. So you can kind of see it has this really lovely halo and that sort of like white undertone. That's the cotton, and the merino is the purple. It is, the main patterns in this, as you can see, is this, okay, this is my favorite one. And Katie and I were talking about this at Knit Night because I brought it to show everybody that this is kind of like, this would be fun, just columns of these on a sweater, right? Like, I don't know how you would do it, and I don't want to figure out the math, but it's really cool. So it's a little like, looks like a little fishtail. And then we've got this really fun cable pattern. It's gorgeous. I just love these like traveling crossing cables. I think that's so fun. And then you've got like traditional little twisties here, and you've got the, you know, I don't know, moss stitch box type thing. Okay. And then we've got a lace panel. The lace panel is the same all over. So there's a panel here in the front and the back and the underside, or like the sides of the sleeves. The underside of the sleeve, which we didn't really get to look at last week because I have not had a lot done, is where your decreases happen. So you can see it's sort of a wide band that becomes nothing. How do I show you this? Right here. This is like the last stitch. So that my very last piece before I do the ribbing is, sorry, it's trying to focus on my face here. The very last rows are obsolete from the middle band. Okay. Let's look at the back, because the back is different. It has just one single big cable panel. And on the sides here, let me get a little closer. You guys would have seen this from the episodes, but this is what they call a purl twist. And it's like kind of a purl two together, like offset thing, but you do 2 stitches in one. And anyway, it's pretty fun to do. So here it is. I actually found this to be super enjoyable. Oh, also, important thing I think that is very cool. So the sleeves are 1 by 1 ribbing. This is great because it does absolutely keep them a little bit, like, this is my kind of ideal sleeve width. So this is perfect for me. Also, it's a nice long cuff. But the neckline and the hem are both 2 by 2. And instead of doing a sewn bind off, they do a faux sewn bind off, which is sort of like, it's very simple. It's pretty much like a bind off in pattern, except for you're just making sure your yarn is the right place so that it almost gives you, you know, sort of a wrapped stitch look in the front without having any of that like pooling to the sides that you get in a sewn bind off. It's definitely not as stretchy, but like for me, this is sitting perfectly. When I blocked it, I got a little bit of width, you know, like to keep the 2 by 2 super flat, and it was great. The neckline is, you know, picked up after the fact, and I think you just get such a nice line from that. Like, wow, look at that. It's gorgeous. And I did the faux sewn bind off here too. You could do kind of anything, I guess, you know, whatever you wanted. I thought this would be a little bit of a deeper V, or more pronounced of a V, but I actually feel like this is perfect. I know I talked about this last week, like I wasn't sure if I would keep it this much or if I'd want more, but honestly my cleavage, my actual cleavage starts like right here. So if I took any out, then I'd be flirting with that, and it would make it a little bit wider. To be very, like, I would wear that. But I also would like to wear this at work more often because it's such a good transitional piece. Like, I could wear this pretty much the entire year here in the Pacific Northwest. And I know it says 3 seasons, but let's call it 4 for here. But if I made this lower, I probably would feel a little less comfortable on video calls constantly having cleavage showing. I typically don't do that. It's not like my workplace would frown upon it. It's just a preference. Okay, so let's chat really quick about the things about this. So I made a size 5, which is supposed to be 50 inches. Recommended ease is 4 to 8 inches. I used a 5mm needles for the body. My color of Cascade yarn, so I said this was blown tube yarn. It's called Cascade Cantata. It's a relatively inexpensive. I think for 100 gram skein, it's like $10 or so, maybe $12, but I got mine from Wool & Company. If anyone wants to know, they have a lot of selection of colors. And this is called Plum. The color number is 21. And then it is 70% cotton, 30% superwash merino. It's 218 yards for 100 grams, which puts it, I guess, like technically anything under 220 is like Aran weight, or I don't know. But I would call it like worsted. It's a little bit plump. It definitely doesn't really like, I blocked it. I got a little bit of like relaxing of my stitches, but even with the cable, like I don't feel like it was scrunching up as much as a wool yarn would probably do. And it's not just the gauge, it's just like the yarn doesn't have as much give, so it's not gonna like, it doesn't scrunch up as much, but it's also not gonna relax as much. So I did get a little bit of relaxing, especially I did get a little bit of length on my sleeves, but I did tug them a little bit. And I don't have like, this is a perfect sleeve width, like it's definitely, it's touching my arm the whole way. It's not like free, but with the breeziness of it, it's perfect. I will go over some measurements really quick. So I do think I didn't get quite as much, which I will say. I have a whole long note in my Ravelry page, one of which is I did version 3 of the pattern. We're now on version 4, and I think we'll be at version 5 for release. Version 4, the main changes were like a couple of sizes, including mine, got like a couple extra selvage stitches on the armhole so that this little thing would be a tad bit wider in the new version, just because of the way that you need to do it for the join at the bottom. And then there's decreases. Instead, I just had one selvage stitch on either side, and I increased at my ribbing so that it was even. I put that whole note in here. And then I changed the decreases on the arms. So originally it was at like every 5th stitch. That's now changed to be a slower decrease, but that would have been an odd number. Like it would have ended like here, and then it would have just been a straight sleeve. So I decided to do, I like kind of got an idea of how long I would need, like how much of the pattern I would need to do to finish the sleeve at the right place. And I decided to, I did every 5th stitch for like this part, and then I did every 10th till the end. And so my last decrease is like I showed you, is right here, not down here somewhere. Which that, I mean, they don't really care if you change the decreases a little bit, especially if I put a note. But I will say is I finished exactly 2 repeats of the chart. The chart is here, and so it's 2 little dudes. I don't know what these things are called when they look like this, like honeycomb dudes. Okay. So I thought every row was pretty interesting. I really liked it. I thought the construction was interesting. And although I was sort of like, oh, I have to sew it together, I did not realize that until I signed up, because I think that's actually in the cardigan as well. And so I own the cardigan. I should have known that, but I have not made it yet. I will actually be making it out of this, which is also Cascade Cantata. Anywho, I was sort of dreading that, but I think it only took me like 20 minutes to do each side, because it's worsted weight. Like there's not that many stitches you're doing. It was really clear. It was very easy to see where I was sewing in, and like it made such a nice little line that, okay, cool. That's the only part you do, and then you pick up for your sleeves. Okay, so I got, my final bust measurements were 48. This is the thing I want to talk about for blocking. I did not pin this out because I wanted to see how it relaxed on its own. I knew I'd get a little bit of space, but I didn't want to aggressively pin anything just because I wasn't sure how this yarn would react. I've never used Cantata, and my last experience with a blown tube was not great. So this is a little bit smaller than I think I could have gotten the ease if I like probably could have given a little bit more ease at the lace piece here, but we're going to call it 48-ish. My armhole depth is the only thing that is probably off from the pattern. I only have 8.5 inches here at the seam. And I think I'm supposed to have like 9.25. Again, I did not pin my shoulders to be higher, which maybe would have given me like slightly more of a deep neckline, but I'm very happy with how it looks, so I won't do that. Even if I wash it again, I'll just like put it out on my little drying mesh thing again. My body length from underarm to hem is 15 inches. My arm circumference is just about 17, because that's what 8.5 is times 2. And then my sleeve length from underarm to cuff is 17.5. I did knit to 17, and then I got a tiny bit extra, which just has it set like my arm is down. It's like this. As you're using your arm and stuff, it's at least not creeping up. So that's nice. And my V-neck depth from the back, when laid flat, from the back of my like top of my collar to the V is 6.5 inches, which is really good. In fact, perfect for me. Okay. So the last thing I want to note is that I used 5.5-ish, just under 5.5 skeins. of this yarn, which is about 1,190 yards. That's actually so great for cabled. It's because the lace uses a little bit less, right? So it kind of evens you out to like a little bit under like a regular worsted weight sweater, maybe about what I would expect, really. Let me see what I use for my Ever After, because that's a worsted weight sweater. That's just like a traditional drop shoulder. Yeah, 1120 for that. So this is just over that, but this one's a little bit longer, and it's, yeah, I mean, like, it's got cables, so that's actually kind of great. Then you're not having to buy like 8 skeins to make a cable sweater, which is what happens. It's what happens. Okay, I have one more finished object to talk about that this week. Well, I guess kind of two, but mostly just this one. This is called the Root Cellar socks. As I told you last week, I'd have to have these done actually by today because that was the end of the test. We only had to have one sock done. So here's one sock. You can kind of see the pattern. It's got like little cables that make kind of like little diamonds in 3 columns, and this yarn is super fun. But I did not just make one, I made 2. So these are DK weight socks. They are done. I'm very excited about it. They're so fall, and I just want to wear them all the time. Okay, these are again, Root Cellar socks. It's from the Homestead collection, which I imagine is going to come out tomorrow or very soon, maybe like over the weekend. I don't know if Carlie has told us, but this is the pattern by Carlie Perrins, who is Northwoods Knit Co. on Instagram. She, not all the time, but typically does her pattern releases in sets of 3. So when you buy the pattern, you'll get 3 different patterns. This time, she almost always does a cable, a texture, and a lace, but that's not always true. Like sometimes there's a color work or, you know, whatever. But this is kind of what's happening this pattern. So they're all DK weight socks, and you can get them all cuff down or all toe up. So like it's just one pattern versus the other. So when you check out, just make sure you pick the one that you'd prefer. I tested these, as I just said, and I've tested for Carlie a bunch of times because I just like really truly love all of her patterns. I like the way her socks fit me. I think she gives like good measurements. I haven't done this is my first sock in all of 2024, which I feel okay. It was fun. I don't know that I'm gonna cast another sock on right this minute, but I did miss them. So there is this. I did a size 3 toe up, which is for a size, lady size 7 to 9.5. I am on the highest range of that. I have a pretty wide foot too, but it's 7.75 inch circumference. I used, okay, the pattern actually calls for a 275, I think, needle. I used 2.5, mostly because I read that incorrectly. But then when I was measuring my foot for gauge, I'm dead on at that. So I would have been a little bit looser of a knitter. So I would have been too big on a 2.75, which I've actually noticed with Carlie's patterns before. I'm a little bit looser of a knitter than her, which is fine. I just had to, I mean, and your sock is almost gauge, right? Just cast on your sock and then you'll know if you have to rip out or not. This is from Stitch Noir. It is a DK sock set that I got as a giveaway on Instagram like several years ago, like 2020 or 2021. Anyway, the color name of the set is Pumpkinhead. There was like a dark gray with this too, but this orange came with it, and I decided to just go with that, and I think they're perfect. It is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 250 yards for 100 grams, and I used, just while we're on the topic of tracking some stuff, I did use 1.08 skeins. The breakdown is I used 91.7 grams, so 200, almost 230 yards of the main color, and then just about 16 grams, 39.75, so 40 yards ish of the contrasting color. So it's almost a whole mini will take you, a DK mini, and then nearly an entire skein. And you could have, like, I could have striped the cuff or anything. Like, Carlie typically doesn't do contrasting cuffs, and I just chose to do that for the pattern as well. So, okay, here we are. Here we are with that. Okay, so the last finished thing is, this is that merino silk art bat that I spun last week, and I washed it. And I will not really talk about it because we did that last week, and you know I didn't like really love spinning this, but that's okay. You can't really tell. It plumped up a tiny bit. It looks a little bit fuzzier. But I washed it, I thwacked it, I let it dry. And so here we go. It's orange and blue. It's gonna just go in the shelf until I decide if I want to give it to Charlotte or somebody else to play with, and or if I just use it for something small. I don't know. It's not a lot of yarn. It's only 2.5 ounces. Okay. On the topic of spinning, I'm gonna do this update first, and also I have something to share. So last week, you guys heard me talk about my friend Pam. If you were watching my stories this week, you might have seen she also posted that she was doing a drop spindle while watching me talk about her on the podcast. But of my yarn, of a Naughty Mess. It was the full circle moment. So, but her mom reached out to me, who I did talk about, and she is the quilter, and I actually think she's gonna start a YouTube channel for some of her quilting things. She's a prolific quilter, so she's got a lot of information to tell everybody. So if I check out her channel, I will like share that with you guys, but I don't know if they're actually posted yet. They were just talking about filming them this week. So but Sue, she sent me some pictures of Pam and I. I'm gonna put them up here. As itty bitty babies. This is 24 or 25 years ago. The two of us holding up finished quilts. One of those pictures has also her older sister Jackie in the background, but those are two different quilts. It was the same day because we're wearing the same clothes, though we were like sometimes feral children, so it could have been that same weekend. But these are like actual physical photos she has from like an actual camera, and that's so fun. So here's baby Megan. Okay. On a note of spinning, I did start a new project this week, and that is, this actually is super special. So that was a sneak peek of the bobbin, but I want to talk about this fiber. So this is actually 100% Targi. So I will just off the bat let you know I'm enjoying myself. So that one not fun Targi spin was possibly, I mean, now I'm at 50-50. This is fun. That was not fun. This is pre-drafting well. It's drafting really well. It's not doing that weird like clumping thing. So having a great time. This color is called Chasing Fireflies by Wee Chickadee. And I posted this and then talked to Jen. Jen messaged me. She is the dyer at Wee Chickadee, which is also kind of local, semi-local. I think she's in Oregon. But I talked to her on Instagram because she was like, how did you get your color separation to be so perfect? This was not on purpose, but these are kind of, some of this is pretty short color changes. And when I posted the picture the other day, I had like a bunch of pink up here but the shades were changing across it. Totally incidental. It's just like the length of which I was changing my bobbin, like the little latchet things. Anyway, this is a spin. It's looking incredible. It like the colors are so fun. Okay, so this fiber, Targi, if it's nice, it's feeling fluffy. It's definitely not as soft as like some of the Rambouillet and the Shanico, for sure, not as soft as that, but it is nice and fluffy, and it has like a nice like hand feel. It's not like, it's a little bit like that matte feeling. It's not but it's not very scratchy. Like it's soft. It's just not as soft. It's not quite as cloud like as the Shanico. But yeah, enjoying it. So I bought this skein, if you will remember, 1 year ago, essentially, this weekend. I think it was like 1 year ago this weekend, when I learned how to spin with Maya at La Mercerie. So I can't believe it's been only a year, but also I can't believe it's been a year. So it is my spin-anniversary this weekend, and I thought it would be so fun to be spinning this that I bought. So Jess, the owner of La Mercerie, had spun and put it in as a shop sample, which I think is crazy because it was gorgeous. This colorway up. She might have spun it up on Falkland or a different, maybe it was Targi, but it was sitting in the shop on the shelf by the fiber, and I was like, oh, that's so gorgeous. I want to make that skein. And I said to Maya, like, it might take me forever to get there, but like, I'm going to buy this, and that's going to be like an aspirational. I could have spun this earlier, but I've just been like kind of feeling sentimental about it. And so I thought this would be a good excuse for me to break the sentimentality, but also just use it. Yeah. So it's so fun. The color is like just, it's super gorgeous. It's got like that pink is so vibrant. Teals, blues, purples. It's got everything in it. And like even like foresty green. I love it. So that is my spin update. Oh, I will be spinning that, by the way, in a fractal spin. So I have the braid right now. That's one half of it, which I have not split again, but I did the first half is what I'm spinning. I did one half of the first. So I split it in 2 long ways once, and then I split the first one in 2, and I'm spinning that from top to bottom. And then the second one I'll split in 4 or 6, sort of depends on what the fiber wants to do. I'm thinking probably 4, and so I'll get sort of like medium color changes. Let's go on to our regular whip updates now. Sorry, that was like a very long beginning of the episode, but this will be pretty short. So our first update, as has been happening for the last month or 2, I guess 2 months probably almost, is my Heirloom quilt cardigan. So I'm working on squares. This week I did 2 squares. Let me just pull them apart. Square number 1 this week was tan and blue, looking pretty. And square number 2 this week was green and coral. I'm still kind of going through and just like every week picking ones that either like don't have the background colors or have, yeah. So I'm kind of keeping them even so I can make sure I like everything also so I don't run out of yarn. I don't know. I think I got enough yarn, but I feel a little nervous, and I'm not even halfway through the squares. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. That might either push me to do more or put this on hold. So I couldn't tell you which way I would be leaning right now. So that is the pattern is by Katrin Seeberger, who is at Katrin Seeberger on Instagram. I am making size 2 squares. I'm using the 4.5 millimeter needles. I am using all ZZ Textiles DK Tweed in color collection colors. I have all but 2 colors. There's like a brighter yellow and a red cardinal, and I don't know what the yellow was. And I'm not using those 2. I'm using all the rest of the main colors. So, and that's 75% Superwash Merino, 15% Donegal Neps, 231 yards for 100 grams. Okay, the next one we will talk about, I am skipping. I'll tell you all the ones I'm skipping this week. Bell Mullet Pullover. I just didn't even connect to yarn. I did 0 on that. Not at all. I have time, but also I just was so focused on this. I needed to get this done first. I did 1 or 2 rows of my louder vest, so I'm not bringing that down for you. Same with my tessellated vest. I like picked it up a couple of nights and literally did 1 or 2 rows and then put it down, which is not great. So I'm hoping to get myself in order now that I have 2 less projects on the needles. I am going to cast something on tomorrow, which is crazy, but it's on our knit calendar. And it's the big project we've been talking about with our friends in the Bay Area who did the Calm Down Cardi with us last year. And just about this time last year, I think actually we didn't do it till November, but we went to give people extra time. This year is to make we are making a project all together. And this time it is the traveler hoodie. So we are all casting on a traveler hoodie. Everybody but Sylvan, who's already done. But Sylvan went on a trip. Also, I'm so excited. This is like unrelated to anything that you guys care about, but Sylvan is back. She's been gone for almost a month doing a bunch of travels, and which is very fun for her. But she took the traveler hoodie being like, well, I need a main project, and then finished it. And so she's done. Everyone else, I think she said maybe she'll do the traveler crew, but everybody else is going to either be starting their spin or casting on-ish on Friday. We have a Zoom call. Okay. But I'm hoping kind of to keep myself concentrated and doing like spending a night, because it's not like 15 or 20 minutes clearly doesn't make me feel like I got any progress. Like I need the hours between when baby goes to bed and when I go to bed to just be like one project. That means I can't get through all projects. So things like this is an hour in a little bit each. I need to just pick a night where I either do two, and that's what I do that night, or if that's too boring for me, do this and then a project and then this and a project the next night, and just like try to get them done, but only have two things, not try to work on more. Okay, well, we'll see. Okay, so we'll talk about the Field Day cardigan, which is a gift knit for my mother. I am making a size, let me click that one, 2XL, which is a size 6. Using 4.5mm needles for the body, which is what's recommended. And honestly, I should have done a gauge swatch because I definitely probably should have just been a 4. I'm a little over on stitch gauge. I'm pretty over on row gauge. Honestly, it's fine. I did throw this over my mom's shoulder yesterday to see about where I'm sitting, and she's not a whole lot bigger than me, but she's sort of got bad posture and a little bit more like rounded muscles in her back. So this will be fine as a fit for her. I am using Outlander Collection yarn from Long Dog Yarn. I love this color. Not for me, but it's great for her. My mom is a super blonde lady. This is her Merino DK in Clan Fraser, which this is my mom's favorite ever like TV show and books, but she's been reading these books since they first came out in the 90s, or yeah, 90s, I guess, whenever it started. And then, so this is 100% superwash merino. It's 250 yards for 100 grams. Okay. Last week I was just done the back panel, and so I put this at the shoulder pickup, and whoop, you can see I picked up the front panel on the right side. I am nearly done. I think I have 2 more increases for the V-neck. And then I'm actually going to pause. I have tons of balls of yarn of this. So I'm going to pick up the other side, but leave these attached. Do the back, you know, do this little doodad, connect, do the front increases to match, and probably sew this down too, so I can have a really good feel of how it's fitting. And then I will drape this over my mom again and see if I need to add any shape or like any rows for, because like after you do the increases for her size, at least it's just a certain amount of straight rows to just get more length before you join. But since I'm so off on row gauge, I might not have to add many or any of those. And because the back is a little bit bigger, I just want to make sure like it's sitting okay on her shoulders. At this point, I probably would not rip out the whole thing if I'm off, but I would make some adjustments if I needed to. Like I could rip out a little bit or, you know, do whatever if needed. But it's looking okay. Like it's a little bit off, but what are you going to do? This is probably the one project of all the projects I've made this year that is the most not to pattern. And it's a gift knit. So like for myself, I might have made a different decision, but she at least lives with me. So like I don't need to like stop for a long time. I literally just walked down to her room last night and threw this on her, and I was like, let me see how this is fitting. So that's good. Okay, so I made some progress for sure, but not quite as much as I wanted to. I was like, oh, I'll get this done for her birthday, which is the day before Halloween. That's not gonna happen, but I would like to get a lot of this done before then. So there's that. Okay, skipping birch pullover. I think I did a little bit, but I didn't do a lot, so I'm just not going to talk about it. Okay, culmination blanket. I have 2 squares done. I wanted to do more this week. I have 1 on the needles, but I washed some squares, so I feel like I still made progress. I washed 4 squares this week, and it took so long for them to dry because it's fall. And also I didn't have them in a room with the dehumidifier until last night because these are so big. I need like 3 blocks just to block one of them because my blocks are like 1 foot square each, but that sort of includes the little teeth on it that connect the two. It sort of includes that in the 12 inches. So like honestly, I needed 3 for it to be just over the edges of all of them so I could actually pin it down. So this week I think I will wash 2, and I'm probably just gonna have to try to keep on top of washing 2 every couple of days so that I can get them all washed and ready before, you know, I join. So, but okay, so I washed this one. I could have obviously washed more of the ones from last week because I made 5 last week, but this one is a yellow Surrey, which is the Surrey from my Instant Crush, and then 2 Malabrigo worsteds in 2 different colors, but they're both like very fall palette-y. They washed really well. They pinned nicely. This is just over 12 inches, and then this one's not washed. And this one does not have any fluff in it, but this is, oh gosh, one strand of Adelaide, which is a primrose yarn. It's like a single. It's just in some yellow color. I don't even think it had a color name on it. 2 strands of that, and then 1 strand of yellow. Oh, this is actually, okay, so then 1 strand of like this is an interesting color. Let me grab it. I'm not gonna do this necessarily for but I remember what I used this week. This is Yarnaceous, and this is called Beak in a salted fingering, which is 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon, in a fingering weight. But this color is like, wow, that reads more yellow on camera than it is. It's got like this almost, like a pale, cool quality to it. And it's really interesting. Anyway, so that plus another woolly wool that I got from the Nordic Festival. I have 3 skeins of that, just totally random. I have no idea what it is. They didn't come with any kind of band. I don't know who made them or who dyed them or any information. And I have a brown one that I haven't used yet. I don't know if I will. It's a bit cooler, like a gray brown, but this, I actually think like it's kind of close to this color, so they play well together. And then I just braided it up with some of that, that Adelaide has orangey bits in it, but it's predominantly yellow. I actually really like this, this one. So like, you know, this is definitely a more orangey version of this, but having, yeah, we're gonna have all the fall hues. Okay, so but you can see how much flatter this is laying because I have blocked it. It's more open, it's got more drape to it now, and the edges are nice and crisp. So I mean, I'm glad you have to wash it at some point to be able to like sew it down really. So I'm glad I did that. I did not sew in ends first, so I'm just gonna kind of leave that for myself to do this week. But if I do 2 at a time, that's not so terrible. I'll just kind of keep rotating them through every few days, which is also great for my heirloom squares. I'm thinking I'll do either an alternate day or I'll just wash 1 or 2 with them and put them at the bottom because they're so much smaller, of like a 4 block thing, which is the biggest size that fits where I've been drying things. Okay. And then Doppio. So I have made progress on this. This is the only other thing I really worked on this week. And I've got to tell you a crazy story. So I was working on this at knit night thinking on the body. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I'm going to be totally fine with, you know, just keep going, not have to pay attention. What a great project to have. And then I measured it because it doesn't feeling super long to me. So this is a sample for Golden Age Studio Fibers. Her name is Marina. She is actually, I think, in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh. She's in Pittsburgh, which that's fun. That's my home state for anyone who's not a regular watcher. Okay. But we talked about her measurements when she sent me all of the yarn, and she sent like a card with her measurements, which was helpful, but it made me look at the pattern again and be like, cause she already picked the size and stuff, but I was like, this is going to be really long on you. She has a very short from shoulder to hip inches, and she's a short person, but she said she mostly has like a really short under her like underarm, like bust area to her rib cage is really short. So we decided in the pattern to keep the raglan the same, but to decrease the body by about 2 inches. So I'm a little tiny bit over that, just like with how I ended. But basically I was at knit night and I measured this and I was like over where I needed to be by kind of like significant, like maybe 8 or 9 rows, like a lot of the ribbing basically. So I had to rip it back out, which it was fine. I ripped it out. I finished the ribbing. I cast off, and this is probably the fastest I've done a body in a while. And I would have picked to do sleeves earlier, but I didn't run out of yarn. I did not run out of yarn until I was, I don't know, 2/3 of the way through the ribbing. For the first color, which is the gray, I ran out of first. And then just after that, the yellow. And I did not run out of the Surrey. For the entire raglan body shaping, 1 ball of Surrey. That's wild. So it made that a lot, yeah, a little different than what it would happen for me making it too. Plus it was a 50-gram ball of Surrey. The pattern's by Sunghee Knits. If you don't know this pattern, I just feel like a billion people are making one right now because it's the season. But also every time a yarn dyer has done a release since this pattern came out last year, there have been suggestions of Doppio or like questions about what Doppio combinations would you make? And so like literally you could just see this in every single person on Instagram. So this is a size 3, which is supposed to be 42 inches. I am using from Marina 2 of her basic sock colors. This is for a collection that is launching like right now. So I will be able to tell you now, at least I think 2 of the colors have come out. I'll check while we're talking about it. But the yellow color, and I can pull them up because I have now attached for the sleeve. Oh, if you didn't see this, I moved my stitch marker. So I was like, I don't know, maybe somewhere like here-ish on the body, and so I finished the rest of that. And then I did attach a sleeve yesterday, and I did actually move up a needle size. So I did 6.5 needles for this. Number 1, I couldn't find my metal small shorties that I have, like a nickel set from Knit Picks that are, I can't find the 6 millimeters. So I did 6.5. Also, these are wooden, so they're a little bit stickier, so they're a little bit tighter. My gauge is looking fine, but I also can't continue using them forever because this sleeve gets small. It doesn't actually have that many decreases, but I may just end up using 2 needles and have a smaller size on the one on like the side, like on the left-hand side, on both of the sets of needles, and then just rotate them through. It's kind of annoying to do it that way because I definitely always lose one of them while I'm mid-project, but I will probably do that because that'll be a little bit faster and you're still less likely to get, you won't get like a, you know, a laddered or stretched out stitch if I did magic loop. I may, and I also just don't really want to do magic loop because I find that to be more annoying. So here we are, sleeves. This will be done this week, I'm pretty sure. But the colors, this is 75% superwash merino, 25% recycled nylon, 437 yards for 100 grams, both of these. This color though was released maybe yesterday. Oh, an hour ago. Okay. This is called, well, she has a whole quote at the beginning. So the quote says, "You know, I'm not broken, right? I'm not some flower or a delicate piece of glass. I'm a person and people heal." She wrote on her little tab for me, like on the color card, it's just called, I'm a person and people heal. So that's what this color is. By the way, I keep saying this, the collection is releasing now. It's for The Magicians, the show, not the books. The books are originally by Lev Grossman. The show is a pretty far deviation from the little bit I watched. Marina did say, and all of her posts have this, there is a trigger warning. So it's a pretty dark show, and so she just wanted everyone to know, if you're interested in watching or, you know, looking at her colors and things, you should definitely make sure to check those out first. Okay, the Surrey, I can also tell you, is another reason I didn't run out for the body is because this is a 452 yard surrey. So it's one of the thinner surreys that's out there. It's way more comparable to exchanging with a mohair. It's for 50 grams, 452 yards. It's 75% surrey alpaca, 25% silk. This one, I can also tell you the color because this one came out also early this morning. The quote on the post for this says, if you really want to know your future, you better be able to speed read. So we can call it speed read. Anyway, it is a really lovely, you'll see the color in like a merino has a much more like saturated dark purpley look, and this has like a really nice like gray purpley overtone. And yeah, it's super nice. It's a good, nice, soft surrey to work with. Okay, this is one of the first colors she released and talked about last week. And this one is called What Did You Do? Just a Minor Mending. And it's this really lovely gray with some yellowy bits. Anyway, super pretty. So I am going to be done this week, hopefully, with this. I have a really long deadline to get this sample done, so I definitely didn't need to like speed through it, but Doppios are so fun, and it's like, it's a nice thing. I did bring it upstairs, and it's been a really nice thing to just like work on at later at night, because I have found, and I think I kind of knew this from my Doppios, like it is something I still can't really do at my desk, because if I'm ever knitting at my desk, I'm in a meeting and I want to be paying attention to the meeting, and I don't typically look down a lot, and catching all three strands, I found that I was missing the surrey on occasion, and so I'd have to ladder back with a crochet hook and catch them all, and I would just find them sometimes like the next day, pick it up and be like, oh, there's a little, you know, I can see the little surrey bloop missing, and so that's annoying, and I didn't want to have to do that anymore, so it's much easier to catch that and see if you are just looking at it while I'm reading or whatever, listening to books. So that's what you need to know. Now we know all of the colors for this Doppio, and I am really enjoying working with them all. It's so unexpected to me, like how they marl together. It's one of the best things about Doppios is just the marling is so crazy. This is so much more yellow forward than I thought it would be, but that yellow is so much cooler than I thought it would be too, just with like the gray overtones or that like gray purple overtone. I still don't think I'd wear this, but like I am not opposed to this yellow at all. Like it's so fun. There we go. That's all my projects. Now I have one acquisition, and I would like to tell you about another thing that's going to happen this week, which is this coming week, which is going to be sort of crazy for acquisitions. Hopefully not. Hopefully I just get rid of stuff. But we are doing a yarn swap. I don't know, fall thing. We've got a lot of pre-orders. People have like Christmas yarns coming, or, you know, like Advents. And so some people want to swap out and clear out and whatever. So I will likely be getting some things then. Okay, but I was talking to Sylvan the other day, and I wanted to try Finn, and so she heard this, and so she brought some of Finn that she got from Fiber and Flame at Flock this year, which is raised on Whidbey Island, processed by Skagit Woolen Works, and it's just Finn. I think it's undyed, just like natural gray brown. It doesn't say if it's dyed. It looks just like a sheep color. It's super soft, and they have it like, it's like kind of in like a skein looking thing, but it's just roving. It's just the way that they put it together. There is some little vegetable matter in here, but not too much. It's so soft. Like this is epically soft. But I wanted to practice my long draw spinning some more, and this is a really amazing thing to practice on. And so Sylvan, thank you. I love it. I'm so excited. I still think I'll probably practice with Bridget's bat first, because I have a smaller quantity of that, and then maybe move to this, and then my prismatic. I mean, these are probably pretty equivalent. I would still want to use this for something nice and soft, and like this is next to Skin Soft for sure. Like this is probably only 4 ounces total, but like I could probably get a fair amount of yards out of this if I spin it small and like thin enough. Because of all that airiness, you still like, I don't know, maybe I'll get more yards. I'm not really sure. I could do like a small neck thing. Like it's so soft. Okay, that is my one acquisition. Okay, let's talk about books real quick. I have 3 books to talk about. I finished, well, I'll do the easiest one first. So I finished the second in the Beyond the Play series by Grace Reilly. It is about the brother of the first guy, which I knew, and he's a hockey player. First guy was a football player. And he sort of feels like the left out child of his family, but he's really good at hockey, and also he's being manipulated a little bit by his addict uncle, and the girl is an ex figure skater who had sort of like a traumatic high school experience with her hockey player boyfriend, so has sworn off hockey players forever, but of course they fall in love. So it was fun. The next one I finished, okay, so Katie finished yesterday, and then we did text about this a little bit. I'm going to keep this pretty high level. We would like to have an in-depth conversation, and our friend Jess is also going to read it, and so I don't know if we'll wait for her. We'll talk about it first without her, and then we'll talk about when she finishes it, but I did finish The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. It is the first of the Devabad trilogy. All 3 are out, and I will be continuing. So that's good to know. I loved it. I thought it was such an exceptional romantasy book, and I don't even know if I'd call it romantasy. I mean, maybe. It was really a fantasy-led book that had some aspects of forbidden fantasy, like forbidden romance, and also star-crossed lovers, and like there's a little bit of fun that in there, but it's not really the main part of the story. There is a ton of political intrigue. This is not a typical Anglo-Saxon type fantasy. So this is set firmly in like Arabic culture, and that is very interesting and like not as common. It's got like all of the influences. Really interesting because these are jinn that we're reading about. So like genies in lamps. Slightly different take on this. So this book was set in like 18th century Cairo to start. That's where you meet the main character, and you know she's a little bit special to start with, but let me just tell you, this book had so many fun twisty turns and like plot shifts and things you learn that change the entire narrative in such an interesting and fun way. And so yeah, you think you're starting out in Cairo, and then just kidding. We are not going to stay in the human world. We're going, you know, totally out to another place. I think she does an amazing job world building. It's so interesting. And, you know, in the way that many fantasy books happen, is really the only way that you can, as a reader, understand what's going on. You don't typically the character you're following is someone who also doesn't know anything. So people explain things to them, which is how things get explained to you, right? So we're with somebody who needs things explained to her, but people are secret keeping the whole time of this book series, and I love it. So when you learn things, like it shifts what you may have thought or known from previous chapters, and it's really interesting. So had a great time reading it. Okay, I also finished the series Once Upon a Broken Heart. I finished the 3rd one this week, called A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. It was the final installment of the story of Evangeline and Jax. They set it up at the very, very end that there could be more in this world. I don't actually know if she's written anything else in this world, but I really liked it. I think there are people who had feelings about how this trilogy ended, and I actually found it to be rather satisfying. It's what I wanted out of it for the most part. So I think it was good. There's a lot of ups and downs. This one maybe even more than others. Like a lot of her like this series, it seemed like there'd be these like kind of climactic scenes and they happen like this, but I think her pacing is interesting, like keeps it interesting enough that even when something you know, you're after a traumatic moment and there's like people are kind of figuring out what's going on, it is moving forward quickly enough that you don't get sort of like lost in some, you know, discovering details, long diatribe type things that can happen with certain authors. And so I think, you know, you've got big events happen, and then there's a little bit of discovering why, how, what, when, whatever, and then moving on to the next issue. And there's a couple of bad guys in this, so that also keeps it interesting. And yeah, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I'm like not sad the series is over. I think it was fine. It was good at the length that it was. Let's move on to some stats. So I'm going to tell you some stuff first. Then we'll do the color in, and then we'll move on to some other things. So first things first, by quarter. So I've been doing this by quarter. In Q3, so that's July, August, and September, I finished 15. That's pretty good though. You know, obviously some stuff started the quarter before, etc. I have used yarn per quarter. Okay, so this quarter I used, not gave away, only like used in projects, 16,275 yards. 276 almost yards. So that's all the things completed in the quarter. So, and that does not actually include any of my heirloom squares, even though those were like individually completed. That'll all count towards whatever quarter it actually ends. And my culmination blanket squares. None of those, even though, you know, that individual piece is done, none of that is getting counted towards the quarter. Okay, so in my yarn library stats book, I also look at the number of yards gifted per quarter. So I gifted or sold 6,415 yards. So my total yardage used for the quarter is 22,693, which is pretty good. I brought in during the quarter more than that. 32,000. So I'm over. I honestly, so I was talking about this with Sylvan. Also on Saturday, she and Katie stopped by, and I just don't know that I'm going to count it next year. I still am feeling good. I mean, I'm never going to be like negative in my yarn. I mean, I'm never going to be like totally gone with my yarn library. I think being smart about purchases is part of it, and you know, being aware and stuff is fine, but I don't want to like limit the things I really love to come into my stash. I do think I have already changed some of my buying habits. Like, I'm not buying as mystery things. I don't, because I feel like I finally have sweater quantities of things that I know I want to use. I'm still going to buy them when I love the pre-order colors. Like, I don't even want to talk about Coley's order because, or like for the Coley's version of the Eras Tour, which is still up for pre-order. If you haven't bought any yarn, go do that. It's her best-selling collection so far, and it's not surprising to me. The colors are gorgeous. The coordination, the way you can do fades, all of the things super fun. I did get some fiber, and I definitely got some yarn for projects. I did get some of that paid for because I did a sample for her and chose to do store credit, and zero regrets. So I'm only gonna have more things to add. I will probably make 9 again this year, though I think I'm going to just do 9, not 12, because that's a little bit crazy. I'm probably not going to finish them this year. So I might have some carryover. I might change priorities. I already know I'm going to make one of my priorities for next year some more fingering weight things, because that's why I felt like now is missing more in my wardrobe. I'll definitely still be making DK and worsted weight things, but I want to try to slow down a little bit and do some more fingering weight garments, full length sleeves, t-shirts, tank tops, etc. But just, yeah, do that. I will also likely continue to do some gift knitting, though I think I'm going to do some socks for the family. I'm going to talk to people and see if they're interested. And I am now more ready to do some baby makes. Theo is loving her clothes. She's still pretty rough on them. She's a toddler, but I think I would like to give her a couple more things for pictures and just for her to pick out and wear, because that's fun and she's cute. Okay. So those are a couple of stats. I don't even know what I shared last time. I've just been doing random things. Oh, but I will share one more stat about my wears. So in the month, this is just general, like total wears, not broken out by anything. I wore in July 24. I have 24 wears tracked, 28 in August, 26 in September. I am still predominantly at work. My main things I wore this quarter sweater wise are obviously the things that I made. I'm always wearing my most recent makes most usually, but my Margaret Henley has 4 wears, Ever After has 3, and my Kip has 3. And then I wore a couple of my summer cardigans, my mezzo and brunch cardigan. I didn't really wear the other ones. Like, it was a little bit warm for a lot of the summer to do that. Wore a lot of tees, as you may imagine. I wore, my most worn tee is my Skyline tee. That is not surprising to me. That is so wearable. It's so easy to throw on. And I did wear my color tip tee so 9 wears for my Skyline, 8 for my color tip tee, and then 5 for each of my stripy turtle tank, my slanty stripes, and my Tolsta. And then a little bit lower, my Sundial and my Moonset. Moonset like was just finished in September, so I wore it 4 times in like a week and a half. Also not surprising. I think I'm gonna wear that probably the most next year. That's my prediction. So overall, still loving tracking that. That's one thing I think I'll probably still track next year. It's giving me a really good idea of some of the things I never wear. That's more what it's telling me. But it's nice to see, like, I want to see if I continue wearing some of these things or if it's always the first in, like how, am I mixing in the other things? I definitely did for t-shirts because I didn't have tons of t-shirts made this year. So obviously I wore my made ones the most. And I wore my newly made ones the most, but I wore some of my other ones too, for sure. So let's do the color in here. I will add it. It will be short, so I hope you enjoy. Okay, so that was stats. If you have other questions about things that I didn't cover this time, let me know. I have fun tracking all of the things. I don't feel like it's particularly arduous because for the podcast, I have to have good notes on all of the projects. So my project board is easy to keep up. Just for my sanity, I have a stash tracker. It's called my yarn library on Monday, which I've gone over before. If you're interested, please look back to like beginning of this year. I think I went over really like all of these boards in depth. And then my knitwear tracker. That one's been really fun. I just go in the mornings and put in what I'm wearing. Then let's see. Oh, so the only thing I really want to talk about this week outside of this is, don't forget, Collie's yarn, but is that if you watch Ariel's podcast, she announced last week that she is doing a live of putting her yarn away in her office, in her, like in the place it's going to be. I am going to go help her. So we are doing it Sunday. I think tentatively the time is 11. Check out her podcast for final time. I'm sure she'll announce it this week. She usually puts the episode up on Sunday. I think she's also going to put a notification in her Instagram. And if she does, I'll throw it into my stories too. But I will be over at her house and I will be her little helper. I'm not going to be really doing much else. I will probably, like, while she talks about, if she brings up patterns she wants to share, like, links in, I'll throw links into the chat. I've not done a live before. Neither has she. So it'll be a new thing for both of us. It will be long. So if you can only pop in on, for a little bit, or if you want to just come in and out, we will be there just live streaming the whole thing of us putting her yarn away. She has a pretty large inventory of yarn. She's going to be talking about them. I don't know, like we talked a little bit about how she wants to organize it, but she's thinking more about that, like where is she going to start with colors and just how she's going to do it. So I don't know exactly what she's going to land on. I will be there for whatever it is, and I'm very excited. It'll be a little fun time to play with her yarn. I have seen no, not even. I have seen a part of her stash. She only had one bookcase out of like a little bit of yarn, but a lot of it was already like just still packed away. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see. Please join us. It'll be really, yeah. Hopefully you guys have questions, or you can give us like some hearts and things. I don't really know how lives work. We'll see. The only other thing I think I have to say is you guys were pretty close in the comments for last episode. DRK Everyday won. On Instagram, it was like 55 to 45 or something at the end of the day. So we're pretty close here. I still obviously get to choose. You don't choose for me, but like I'm still in indecision land, so I have not cast that on yet. I will hopefully cast it on this year. My plan is to try to cast it on sometime in December, so we shall see. I hope you guys had fun hanging out with me. Let me know what you're working on. And as always, I'll talk to you next week. Bye.